All right, y'all, I got my favorite badass woman here, Dr. Stephanie Kinsey, no joke. And you know, there's just a lot of women out there that are dentists or even aspire to be one.
Sure.
And what you've accomplished, you live a really good life, you know how to balance it all, and you've been through all levels of insurance-based practice, general practice, neuromuscular section, having another dentist in with you. You've done it all. So how do you get to a spot to where you are now, to where you can really think about retirement at a younger age? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, I think that balance is really your key word there. So you have to know what you want. You have to know what's important, and then you have to design what you have towards that.
So what back in the day would you say you said to yourself that you wanted?
I always wanted time to travel. My original idea when I was in dental school was work for 6 weeks, take a week off. Work for 6 weeks, take a week off. You know,
Yeah.
I never wanted to work 48 hours a week. I thought that was way too much. It's too intense what we do. And I think it eats you alive. And I think that's the downfall of corporates is, you know, they burn you out. It's turn and burn, and something's going to suffer. And usually it's the dentist.
Right, truly. So wanting to travel, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool, right? So none of it had to do with dentistry, folks. That's a really cool thing. So you designed your skill around your goal, which is traveling.
Yeah.
And so how did all these other pitfalls get in the way? Because you have general dentistry, that probably just does not allow you to do that.
Sure. Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And when you get into it, you kind of get into bread and butter. I mean, unless you're fortunate enough to come into somebody who's got a different plan, that's all you know. Just like a patient knows only about insurance.
Right.
You only know about that as well. So, you know, they come in and give you a 3-hour course on a business and say,
here you go,
have a great day.
Yeah.
you can buy something.
Right.
You can you know, go in with somebody, or you could go try your own if if you're brave. So I love to learn, and initially I wanted to do things more complex than was offered in dental school. So that was the first part of my journey. I went to a hospital to learn sedation and implants and things like that, and then. The more dentistry you do, the more you learn about what you don't like.
And what didn't you like?
I didn't like. I didn't like 8 to 5. I didn't like. I didn't like fillings.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I didn't like amalgam. You know. But I also had exposure to a lot of different dentists in that program, and in some of my early years, I worked for a corporate, and then. I got to run a practice, and I had a really good office manager that kind of taught me the business end of things. And I was like, okay, I don't like to not get paid for what I do.
Right.
I don't like to have people just walk in my door because the insurance told them to. I'm like, you know, we're not a commodity.
Right.
And so.
It's funny, like general dentistry, you know, just having a conversation, it's like, it's this mass production. And
Right.
then at the end of the day, what do you, I mean, you're just killing yourself, and you're really not getting, it's like you look at a schedule and you go, that looks good, but then you look at your pocket and you go, that did not look good. It doesn't match.
Right.
So what did you start to take away at first? What for you was like that first thing to just take away to get the practice you wanted?
Well, I think, you know, initially it was that you either had to see a lot more people, and so I had that design, and I was very good at operating through 5 chairs, and,
Yep.
and you have to hire a lot of people to supplement that, and then I started learning a little more about the neuromuscular, and that really opened doors and eyes of a better way, and for your patients as well.
And then what about, like, if someone out there is going, this sounds interesting, how do I do it? When do you have to, like, what were the steps? You have to take away insurance, or you had to go through those kind of steps. You lose
Sure.
people. I mean, you probably piss off people. You probably have a lot of uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
So what for you was like the worst part of it?
You know, it's fear. It's always fear.
The unknown.
Yeah, is it going to work? Am I going to be able to pay my bills next month? But I mean, if you break it down into numbers and you look at, hey, maybe I'm going to lose, let's take a big number. Let's say it's 20%. I'm going to lose 20%, but they're taking 30% of what I get paid there. You're still going to come out ahead.
Right.
So you have to trust the math.
I mean, and employees can really be expensive. I mean, your staff costs can be a murder.
Correct.
And so when you get people that, when your office doesn't need as much, then you don't need as many people carrying it. And that to me is an incredible shift.
Right. Yeah. It's streamlining, and if you can get somebody to take ownership, then they take on more responsibility. Not more than than they're able to do, but just having a more vested interest, and so that makes things better for everybody.
So if this timeline of event, which is again a badass timeline, you're a badass, but truly in the whole timeline, what is for you the worst part of it? Like when were you the worst for yourself? Like I may give up.
Well, yeah, that's when you have when you have 9 people and you've got 7 chairs and everybody
running the cattle mill.
Yep, running that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good. I mean, so what advice would you give somebody if they're thinking of taking a road like you did?
So, well, you need. That's a tough question. It kind of depends on where they want to end up.
Yeah, true.
But I think that if you start out knowing that there are things that are going to make your life miserable, like insurance, and just not get into it. If you start that way, I mean, there's plenty of people out there, and you can build a practice even on your own, and just build it right from the start instead of having to try to create it out of something that's been done a different way.
So if you leave dentistry one day, what will you miss the most?
Patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interaction.
Yep.
Yeah. If you ever decide to retire, and if you probably could because you've done such a smart job. If you do, would you ever dabble still in it, or it would be too hard? Would you definitely just cut it off?
If I could create a way to dabble, I'd probably do it.
Yeah.
It keeps your mind active, and we do really amazing things.
Well, I was just gonna say, when you're
when you have life-changing dentistry, it's so rewarding. It's just the day in, day out stuff that kind of drags it down.
Right. So it's like those moments we would miss. It fulfills your soul, right? Like you would miss that a little bit.
I would think so.
Okay. And if somebody wants to do something like they're in general dentistry and they're like, okay, I think I want to try this. Do you feel like you could do it without being neuromuscular?
I think it'd be difficult.
Okay.
Just because that offers so much more. But you probably you just have to work a little harder.
Do you enjoy that or more than surgeries?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends.
You wonder if you could have that kind of practice with just the surgical side.
Right.
Like the comprehensive surgical side or something like that.
Yeah, it would be one way or the other. You
Yeah.
can just do the neuromuscular or just do the surgical. I think that both of that's attainable.
Yeah.
And even if you did something where you went into others' offices and you were the specialist, so to speak.
Right.
That came in.
Yeah. Would you ever teach people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how to do the dentistry you do?
Sure.
So if you could give just 3 points of advice to anybody out there that is thinking of going down this journey, what would be 3 things that you would say for them of good advice?
I would say, well, depending on where they were, first of all, I always tell anybody that says they want to go into dentistry to major in business.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
then for newer dentists or recent dentists, soon-to-be dentists, I say continuing education. Continuing education, because you learn enough to not be dangerous, and there's so much more to it. And you can save yourself years and heartache, I think, by starting that journey early. And I think
Those are 2 great ones, man.
And third, balance.
Yeah.
It can't be all about the job.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Even though it's a wonderful profession, I love dentistry. I do. You know that. But you really have to keep everything in perspective.
You really have. You have the balance thing down pat. I could learn from you. And you know that.
Well,
you try to help me with balance. Yeah, but again, you really, I don't think you do it in a sense of what you bring to the practice. You really do set the tone for balance. So kudos.
Yeah, thanks.
What to you really is success? How would you define success for you?
Success for me is having joy in my profession and time and the ability to do the things that I want to do, which, you know, whether that's travel, which I love to travel, and you know, tennis, competitive sports, that kind of thing. So being able to do
So
that.
as long as your profession feeds that bucket, then you feel that's successful.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Doc.
you're welcome.